every time I would cry in school or any time I would get bullied, I would literally just act like Jesus was my best friend and I'm not alone. And he helped me through that. So I think that that moment was something that was God-driven for me.
Continuing on the celebration of women during this International Women's Month, we're going to be sharing with an international recording artist, Ashley Nemeh. She's a beautiful woman who has a faith deep in how God has given her the gift of song and music, and now actually into movies. She's going to share with you how she went through the thoughts in her head that continue to put her down, the feelings and emotions, as talented as she was, and how she overcame that with the blessing of God's grace, his continual counsel and leading, and the faith that was increased day by day as she walked with him. This will truly give you another inspiration to live your life, listening and hearing his voice. So let's take a listen to Ashley Nemeh's interview with me and find out what helped her and strengthened her to get to the top of her recording artistry and her relationship with Christ. We're going to talk to an inspiring young woman who's going to tell us about her story on the red carpet and many other events. But we're going to talk about what's happening inside her heart, in her mind, in renewing you. Let me welcome a wonderful, precious friend of mine, Miss Ashley Nemeh. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me.
It is good to have you here. You are a very special young lady for so many different reasons. I want you to tell the audience, how did you begin your career and what do you do for a living?
So I'm a recording artist.
You are?
Yes, I am.
And you're on a cover of your own album?
Yes. I have, probably 7 or 8 albums at this point in my lifetime. Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I'm so happy to be doing that. And I think it was really God-driven. Mm-hmm. I grew up singing in church. And my first solo was at 7.
7 years old?
7 years old.
You weren't nervous?
I actually got all of my hope and inspiration from my dad. And he said, just look at the crowd and just pretend that they're just sitting there and that they're normal. Like it's just a normal way of being. You just have to keep going and not allow anything to get you nervous. You just have to keep going and do what you're best at.
And so you sang at 7 years old and you knew at that point that you wanted to do this the rest of your life?
Yes, and it's actually funny because I was teased as a kid really bad, severely. And I lacked confidence in speaking at school, even though I was really outgoing as a kid and I was always happy and smiling. In school, I was just never myself. And I remember singing since I was very, very young. So I was 7 years old and I was sitting in the classroom and Miss Daly, who was a retired nun at the time, she was my homeroom teacher, and she brought out a big guitar and she sat us all down, 30 of us, and she said, okay, so we're going to do a duet for reconciliation for church. We're expecting 1,200 people or more, and we're going to go one by one and see who is best at getting the duet. So I'm like, okay, I'm sitting there and I said, God, there's no way I can do this in front of people. There's no way. In front of these kids. I didn't care about the 1,200. I cared about the kids that really broke me down. So I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm just going to do this. So I started singing, and I'll never forget all of the kids just turned and were like, oh my God, I can't believe this. So actually the duet turned into a solo, and I sang my first solo, and I was the girl that sang. Who's that girl that sings? Let me hire her, and just started from there.
What a beautiful, beautiful beginning.
Yes.
You broke through the wall of intimidation, bullying, and all that type of thing. Did you feel your sense of esteem and confidence in yourself grow right at that moment? Did you feel it inside yourself?
I did, and I think it was a way of God telling me that this is the way or the solution for me. And I used singing and performing as a way of building my confidence and also building my faith.
But you had to break through fear.
Yes.
which is always
Always.
success. I mean, success always is infringed and
Yes.
blocked by fear.
Of
and this
course.
is for our listening audience. At that moment, if you didn't break through, you'd have carried that
I
continuation.
don't think I would be where I am today, to be honest.
That's beautiful.
And everything in my life is based on what Jesus wants for me and what God wants for me. So I think at that moment, every time I would cry in school or any time I would get bullied, I would literally just act like Jesus was my best friend and I'm not alone. And he helped me through that. So I think that moment was something that was God-driven for me.
Now, did you hear that voice of God speaking within you to kind of encourage you
Yes.
and give you that hope?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. I always feel signs from him. So I think that was the first
Well,
one.
now fast forward from 7 years old to the red carpet in
Yes.
Nashville, Tennessee. Tell us
Yes.
about that.
I was so excited and so nervous at the same time. And then part of me felt like I wasn't enough. But then,
So that fear started playing again, the
Yes.
voices in your head.
yes. And I think that's always a battle for everybody.
It is.
Fear is not from God. That's what my dad always tells me. Fear is not from God at all. And it's up to you, it's up to the person to get through that fear and to be able to go through the hurdles and find, honestly, bliss.
And you know, it's interesting what you said, Ashley, is that we know that we have to be the vessel that gets through the fear.
Yes.
We have to face our fears, as the audience would be listening to us. We can't do it. Zechariah 4:6 says we can't do it on our own strength, though, because you can think it,
Yes.
but you're only going to get so far and probably get thrown back many times.
Yes.
But when you do what you said, you go back and tap into the Spirit within you. Now it's not by your strength, not by your power, not by your talent, not by your good looks, but by the power of God working through
Yes.
you. It's a whole different game. I
Yes.
mean, it's a whole different game.
I
at that
wouldn't
point.
have the strength that I have without him. Even if I'm going through a hard time or a hard day or I'm not feeling well, I literally ask God to help me through it. And it has to really come from your heart, and you really have to believe it in order for it to succeed and for it to happen. And for me, it's a constant thing for me to rely on God for strength.
That's so important for our audience to hear.
Yes.
You know, because what you and I talked about before the show that I think is really important. Everybody now looks at you. You're a recording artist. You've been in the red carpet. You've had some of the most incredible entertainment in people and places that you've done, and maybe we'll touch on that in a minute. But the reality is that you still are a regular person.
Yes.
And you still have bad hair days
Very much.
that we know very well.
Plenty of them.
And you have
You know
days
that.
that your encouragement is not there. Somebody says something small, it becomes big.
Very.
Right? Give us some advice from the person who's the normal person, Ashley, that I love and know so well, and who lives a normal life but has a personified career, but struggles just like the little girl in high school or the mom in taking care of the kids or the older woman that just retired. All of those people out there are having the same kind of struggles that you and I always know that are there when we're tuned in.
Yes. Doesn't matter if you're on TV or on the radio or if you're a singer or an actress or whatever it is. Everyone's a normal person and everyone goes through hard times. And I feel like with the industry that I'm in and the spotlight that I'm in, it's even harder and it's more of a challenge.
Yeah, the spotlight is like this close to your face.
Yes, exactly. But you just have to get through it. And it's all a mind game. My mom always says that. She said, you can do anything that you put your mind to. Even if you're going through a hard day, if you're not feeling well, if the worst thing in the world could happen to you, it's up to you to pick yourself up and to trust in God to help you through it.
There's a scripture in Corinthians, and I know you probably know it well. It says, no eye can see, no mind can perceive, no ear can hear the wonderful things that are set before us. That's our human nature. So we could try hard, but we're not really ever going to be able to really work it out with a self-help or with something that's beyond tapping into that mind of God that's within us. Because it's two minds. If you can really tap into that, and we can, and we share that with everybody on Renewing You really tap into a source that is greater than your source.
Yes,
So,
and then it becomes one.
Yes.
And it's really hard to get there, but if you keep going and you keep focusing, you're able to become one with God. And that's when the most amazing things happen.
Okay, now, one of the biggest reasons I wanted you on, besides loving you, and you do something, as we teach our audience, that is so important. When you get a new song, you never open the music and blow out a perfect recording artist level of performance. Am I correct?
Right.
You have to go through testing and rehearsal and
Yes,
practice.
you do.
And I want the audience to understand that's the same way as hearing God's voice.
Yes.
Is really learning. It takes the
Exactly.
practice. It takes the ongoing putting forth the effort instead of thinking we're going to put it on autopilot, because the other voices are always there.
Exactly. If you put things on autopilot, it's just not going to happen. That's just not the way life works. That's not how God works. He wants you to show him love and affection, and he'll give it back to you. Really.
That's right.
Whatever you put into the world.
I can hear the voices out there saying, but it's so hard.
It is.
Yeah. But
It's so hard.
it is.
I
And
have
it's
my
a discipline.
days.
It is.
Everybody has their days, but it's really a discipline. And at the end of the day, you can't allow depression or anxiety or fear or hatefulness or jealousy or anything to get to you. And at the end of the day, even when we go through hard times, at least for me and what I've been through, and I've been through a lot, and a lot of people don't know, I still have God, and I have my family, and I have people that love me. And I think that's also,
Surrounding community,
yes, I
very
think
important.
as well.
Yeah.
But honestly, you have to have enough willpower and enough mind power to get through it.
The commitment.
Yes,
The commitment.
it is a commitment.
It is a commitment. You have accomplished a lot. You have broken through a lot of times the fear, but that comes again and again, probably every time you step on stage.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. I had to sing a friend's wedding. They had no idea I had laryngitis that week. My tonsils were inflamed. I was so sick. But my parents always taught me to just do it. Just do it, and God will get you through anything. And really, I've experienced that. And then that same night, I had to go to the American Heart Association and sing my song for them. So it was a long day, but if I didn't have God and if I didn't pray to him to help me through it, I wouldn't be able to do it.
That's important. And it's not just sitting on your hands.
Yes.
It's really taking the action. I always call it the partnership with God. If you're in a partnership with anybody, it's not 50-50. It's 100-100. He'll
Yes.
always do his part. We've just got to do our part. And that's not checking off the 10 commandments of doing everything right that way.
Yeah, no,
But
that doesn't work.
tuning in with him, listening to his voice, and just conceding to that's the best way to go, even when it's against what I want to do.
Yes.
You said just do it, and I want to close on that note. It's so important that we realize we can accomplish anything that he puts in our hearts.
Yes.
And
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
That's exactly.
And that's one of the
purpose
songs that I wrote. I've written so many songs, but Anything is Possible is one of the songs that I wrote, and it was based on that scripture.
Well, I want to ask you a favor. Would you give us the link to that?
Sure.
We're going to
Yeah.
share it on our site, and those people, when they get a little low, they can remember Ashley's interview and turn it
Thank
on and
you.
remember that they can
Yes.
do all things through He that really is within them.
Yes.
That is precious. That is precious.
For sure.
How can everybody get a hold of you, your albums, and is there a site that they can go to?
Sure. So I'm on YouTube. I'm on iTunes. You can go on iTunes and see the album, and Amazon Prime. I think I'm on Amazon and Google Play.
Wow.
So,
that's exciting.
Yes, and I have a few videos on Facebook that you can take a look at.
And right below, you'll be able to find her name, her link to that song, as well as the issue of any other contact that you can do to get Ashley, and maybe even hire her to do an event for you.
Yeah, you never know.
One last thing.
Sure.
What was your most exciting event that you performed at?
I've had so many crazy things that I've done. I can't really narrow it down, but I think the most beautiful place that I could ever sing at is church. Not only do I help others through my singing, but it actually helps me too. I just feel God so much through that. I've sung for so many different beautiful, huge events, and I've done the home opener for the Indians and the playoffs and all kinds of stuff. That was cool. But I think for me, the most beautiful place is church.
That's beautiful.
Singing for God.
The point of reference that when you do what you're called to do, and you know that you've been called to do it, that's when you feel fulfillment.
Yes.
Not from the money, not from the fame. It could be a mom taking care of a child, and that could be the most inspirational moments of her life.
Exactly.
But you know she's doing what she's called to do. So here's your message today. You really want to hear that voice within you. You want to heed to that voice. You want to tap into the source of oneness that really gives you the strength, which is God within you, that we talk about continually in renewing you. I want to thank Ashley for being with us and her wonderful parents who have raised this beautiful girl and her brother and her sister. So we shout out to your mom and dad.
Thank
as well.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you.
Nice to see you.
And remember, beauty and change begins within you. We'll see you.